Hi there, welcome friends, welcome to Homekeepers. So glad to be here with you today. I hope things are really going well for you. There's a lot of things going on in the world today, and we have to really be thoughtful of each other. And I'm sure that you recognize that because of what's going on in the news. It just doesn't seem to stop. But we have a real bright spot here today because my good friend Deborah Ray is back with me. We call her the First Lady of Health. And her reputation for being able to answer any question about health is really quite astounding. I promise you, she's never not been able to answer any questions that I've given her on the subject, and we're so glad she's part of our team. In fact, she brought me a headline today. A few weeks ago, we had a visitor called Irma here, and she really created a lot of havoc with so many people in the state leaving. So it was a hurricane, and I think its top was between 4 and 5. That's a very strong storm. And so the headline says, Irma leaves us powerless to say no to junk food. Boy, there's a lot of truth in that, because if you went to the grocery store, you know, before you were ready to really hunker down, you wouldn't find any snack food around there. And I have a feeling there are a few people, more than a few people here in Florida, that are kind of trying to work out now and reduce their calories. That's what happens, you know, when these storms really hit. That's all there is to eat. There's no electricity to cook anything, or everything's spoiling in your refrigerator. And so maybe at least once in a while we thank God for junk food. I'm glad Deborah's here. We're going to talk about the deficiencies in our bodies because our food is deficient, and a lot of other things, the importance of sleep. You want to stay and hear what she has to say. And I'm going to join Stephanie. We're going to make some easy Asian glazed meatballs. I want you to pay attention to this recipe because this is something that you can have on hand, last minute. You can fix it in just a few minutes, and it's actually an entree. So we'll demonstrate that for you. But once again, I had to reorder these books. I was able to get a few more, but by Dr. Don Colbert, I Can Do This Diet. And this is a wonderful book, and we are offering it to you for that gift of $20 to the program. And actually, if you bought it retail, it's $25. So what a bargain for you. But Dr. Colbert is a wonderful Christian gentleman, but he's also a great doctor. And he has put together all of the information you need about losing weight and eating the right food for your body and for the right weight that you should have. Strongly recommend it. And the information's on your screen. You can write to us, Homekeepers, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida, 33758, or use your credit card. And that 800 number's for you. That's 229-0059. And I've joined Stephanie over here, looking so sharp today.
Well, thank you. My new purchase from Ross, $9. I like it. I'm not a shopper by nature, but...
You know, I'm not either. I don't get a big buzz out of shopping.
Here's the truth. My husband wanted to mow the lawn, but he said we could stop by Ross. And I thought, I'll go shopping before I want to mow the lawn.
Yeah, if you're going to choose between those two things, yeah.
So
do you find this interesting, this kind of an interesting
recipe?
recipe?
Want easy, super simple. This is going to be your recipe, seriously. Yeah. So we already have cooked rice over here. We're just going to leave that alone. We have meatballs that are just come frozen.
They come frozen, so you'll have them in your freezer. You don't stand and do this.
And then we have hoisin sauce. We have a half a cup of hoisin sauce, 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar, 4 teaspoons of brown sugar, a teaspoon of garlic powder. This, I'm shocked that you actually bought it. A teaspoon of sriracha Asian hot chili sauce, which she doesn't like spicy at all, so I can't believe we have it, and ground ginger. All we're going to do is simply mix these first 6 ingredients up.
The rice is already cooked.
The rice is already cooked. We have some scallions over there chopped up for the top.
I think that's the first time I've ever bought, is it called hoisin sauce?
Hoisin sauce, yes.
But it's where your ethnic items are.
All right, brown sugar, garlic powder.
Well, full disclosure.
Okay.
We're honest here.
We are.
I took a bite before
to a fault.
The show started, and it wasn't that bad.
This isn't that much. That's why. It really isn't that much of the hot sauce.
But when it says, is it sriracha?
Sriracha.
Sriracha.
Yes.
Hot chili sauce. That kind of gets my
attention.
attention.
Does not sound like an Arthelene Rippy kind of ingredient.
Yeah,
So-
it's interesting. I've never liked anything hot like Mexican food,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never, ever liked soda. Pop. We call it pop.
Yeah, we called it pop in Indiana.
So anything that's fizzy or
Really?
there's some-
I love spicy and I love carbonation. So but I've gotten to where I drink sparkling water. So no soda.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Well,
if you could smell this,
Uh-huh.
oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah.
It smells so good. So that was so super simple. You just
There you
let
go.
it heat up. You take your meatballs, you put them right in there. It calls for frozen meatballs. We went unfrozen. We just let them thaw a little bit so it didn't take so long to cook. But we have some that are already cooked up.
Yeah, and
I mean, you can't get
There's a lot of-
get easier. You can't.
but it really tastes like something that has simmered all day long, like something you would get in a good Asian restaurant.
It's those ingredients. Just
Yeah.
go for the right good ingredients.
Are we getting a picture? That's how beautiful they
It's
really
gorgeous,
are glazed.
right? Do you want to put some rice on that plate?
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll use the others.
Yes.
We got another.
Oh my gosh. Seriously, they smell delicious.
And also, you know, now those are Italian meatballs it calls for, but there's a lot of meatballs in there. They're
Yes.
not that expensive.
No, this is a really great economical meal.
Okay, and here's the ones that
Look at those. They look like they came from a restaurant. Come on now.
Yeah.
Let me turn this down.
So I've already tasted it, but
Okay,
I'm gonna,
let's put a little onion.
and you know,
Yummy.
do you know what I would do?
What would
if I did this? I would double the sauce recipe.
Yeah. Yeah, because that really cooked down.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's
let
fine.
here.
I've already had some.
I know, I thought you might try again.
Yeah.
Sometimes you make me try again.
But what if I, what if I got just a little piece of that really hot stuff?
That's crazy.
I know it. It tastes like a good restaurant.
I
a
would
good
put more
Chinese
of this,
restaurant.
actually.
Yeah, you would.
I would put more of that. That's delicious. You want this recipe.
Well,
it's so good.
I tried to be authentic because there is a sweet chili
I'm
sauce.
shocked.
Yeah, but I thought
So good.
for the good of the show, I follow that recipe perfectly, and Stephanie will be so impressed.
Thank
that
you
I
for
stepped
suffering
out
for
of my
Jesus.
what do they call it? Your comfort zone.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
All right.
good.
Okay, you can have this recipe a couple ways. You can email us. That's the best way, quickest way. Or if you want to write to us, that's fine. Just be sure you send us an envelope with your name, address on it, and a stamp. Stay with us, because if you haven't met Deborah Ray, this is a good day for you. You're going to love her.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, you may send your email request to arthelene@rippy.org, or you may write to us at the address on your screen, and in doing so, please include a self-addressed stamped envelope. We thank you for being a part of our Homekeepers family.
Well, Deborah, welcome back. You've been gone too long.
Glad to be here.
I say, you're turned into a snowbird.
Sunbird. We head to Canada when it's warm in the summertime.
Right. In Florida, we have what we call snowbirds, and they come from the north around November, sometimes after Christmas. And they're here for 2 or 3 months to get out of the snow. Deborah leaves to get out of the heat. So. But I've spoken at churches in Canada for years, all across. It's a beautiful country.
It's wonderful people.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
And you know what? I like their food better. I don't think it's not quite as processed as ours, is it? When you go into a restaurant, things like that.
It is converting. We've been going for 10 years now, and you can see a definite difference.
Are they
in
getting like
terms-
us?
A lot more processed foods, a lot more fast food, where you didn't used to see that. No.
I know. When I used to go there, even in the restaurants, I felt like, oh, this feels a little more like it's made from scratch. And
They have wonderful seafood, of course, cold water fish, which has the good fats in it. They have like 10 different kinds of salmon and sable fish and halibut that are really delicious.
I got one story about Canada, and it's not food, but I was speaking for a minister's retreat in Manitoba in January. And so this young pastor, the retreat was Friday and Saturday, and he invited me to speak on Sunday in his church. So I said, fine. I don't know where he was. And he was almost to the Northwest Territories. That's where he was.
Where polar bear watching is.
Yeah, right. It was 42 below. And he said, I want you to speak on Saturday night too, okay? I said, I would be happy to, but who will come? It's 42 below. As I flew, I thought, if this plane goes down, nobody's going to look for it. And, you know, the church was packed.
Wow.
Those people, you know, in Florida, if it rains, we can't go to church, but 42 below, and those wonderful people were out there. So
Great people.
I love the Canadians. Okay, we're talking about a National Health and Nutrition Examination survey.
Right, which is done periodically by government officials, and it's basically where do Americans stand nutritionally? Because we all admit, I mean, we're a blessed nation. We have such resources, and you think, oh my goodness, that translates into how could anybody be nutritionally deficient? But we are. We are.
Do you have any idea, and we're going to go into that, but do you have any idea where we are next to other countries? Because we're pathetic.
We're number 76. So,
see, I told you she could always answer the question.
So we spend more money than any other civilized, industrialized country on the planet for health care, yet we're not the healthiest. Because 50% of the foods that Americans now eat are processed, and the more processed, the less nutrients. So we have amazing statistics from these government National Health and Nutrition Exam Survey, NHANES surveys. 93% of Americans deficient in vitamin E. That's not good. That's not good. That's why we have more prostate cancer, more immune imbalances in this country. We eat a lot of food, but it's not nutrient dense, hence the IRMA 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Because we're filling up on junk food, but it's not nutritionally dense.
Yeah. Now, what does vitamin E do for us?
Vitamin E is essential for immune system balance. It's also very important in terms of certain chemical reactions. So you see lower levels of vitamin E, we see increased risk of heart disease, increased risk of cancer, increased risk of immune deficiencies. So it's absolutely essential. You know, more than 50% of Americans are deficient in magnesium. That drives 300 of the body's chemical reactions. So inability to sleep, digestive disorders, more heart rhythm irregularities, more constipation. I mean, there's any number of things. If you look at the nutrients, you can predict. The Brits very efficiently did this. They show the more we have people that are deficient in the B vitamins because we don't eat fresh fruits and vegetables, we don't eat whole grains, you have more diabetes. And of course now, teenagers, the fastest growing group of type 2 diabetics in this country because of nutrient deficiencies.
Now, is our food, vegetables and fruits, so forth, is that deficient, or are we just not eating them and so we must need a supplement?
We're not making wise food choices, but even when we do,
the food doesn't have it.
Yes, yes. And in fact, if you go into a medical school library, you'll see these huge volumes, chemical composition of food. Well, a physician in England who didn't believe when his patient said, well, Dr. Thomas, I eat well. And he's like, well, how do you have high blood pressure and, you know, diabetes and sugar problems and all this? And what he did was check out 50 years of the chemical composition of food and found out whether it's spinach or broccoli or Brussels sprouts, it has less magnesium and B vitamins and certain nutrients than it did 50 years ago, because we want to bring these foods faster to market. We use soils that are used over and over again, so they're nutrient deplete. We use a lot of pesticides and things in our farming where you can't go against the way that God intended it for to be done.
So take your vitamin E or your magnesium.
Right.
Do we go to the vitamin store and get some? And How do we know if
probably
that's
do need to supplement. You know, doctors can run tests to tell you where you stand nutritionally, but you know, things like fruit of the spirit, you know, things like you know, Dr. Young's Power Shake. I mean, there are things that we can do to eat as well as we possibly can, but yes, we need to supplement wisely. And in fact, if you ask doctors, they'll say 90% of the time, I don't tell my patients about it, but I take vitamins and minerals.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Also, the loss of nutrients, I believe some of the material you sent affects your sleep.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that is so important. I sometimes get the feeling that America's almost a sleepless society. We're such high energy people and the technology, you know, you can't shut your brain down at night.
Right, because you're always listening and plugging in and texting and all those things. But you know, the lack of sleep alone can age you. And nobody likes to look like they're tired or older, but sleep is as important in anything else that you do in terms of how long you live and how well you live. And even certain, you know, things like lights on. Of course, we all have gadgets in our bedrooms. We should really sleep someplace where those gadgets are off, where the lights are off, where we don't watch, you know, a shoot 'em up show before we go to bed.
Or your phone.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, there are, and they're not hard to find, but there are certain things that are suggested to prepare for sleep. But let me tell you, I was having some real sleep issues, and I don't like to take medication. I think my doctor is just a little bit frustrated with me because I haven't filled any prescription yet that they've given me. But I didn't want to take anything, even over the counter.
Right.
And I might talk more about it on some other program sometime, but I got a stem cell treatment.
Did you?
And usually there's no hard and fast rule, but usually those kind of kick in around a month or 6 weeks or so.
Right.
I would say the second week I was sleeping better, and there's no explanation for it. And I have since learned that that's not unusual with stem cells.
Yeah, scripturally, He makes our hearts anew. Where literally every cell in our body can be made anew by the lifestyle choices that we make, by the sleep that we get or don't get, the nutrients that we get or don't get. And things like stem cells can literally rejuvenate every cell of your body from the inside out. That's amazing.
I know Dr. Young's slogan is nourish the cell, restore the body. That's pretty simple.
It is.
And biblically and spiritually, as in your body, the life is in the blood. If Jesus hadn't shed his blood on the cross, we have no life.
You can remake that cell membrane. You know, why do people's blood pressure normalize? Why do people's blood sugar normalize? Why do they need to not take as much medication for any number of reasons? Simply by remaking that cell membrane. And it basically comes down to proteins and fats and nutrients.
Yeah, and how does rest?
Right.
Because when I couldn't sleep, I'd say, Lord, your word says he gives his beloved sleep, and it's awful that you can't turn your brain off sometimes, and it's just going every direction. I thank God for every good night's sleep, because when you don't, it's torture.
It is.
And so proper sleep, I assume, helps to keep your cells happy or healthy.
It's the time that the body rejuvenates, and something as simple as, you know, you hear about melatonin. Well, if we don't get enough sleep, our bodies don't produce enough melatonin. And we now know that if we, for example, are taking antibiotics, that affects our body's melatonin production. And then that affects our ability to sleep. So it becomes this vicious cycle that if we're not doing the basics, you know, what Scripture teaches us, it can affect our body in so many ways, even long term, because we know more cancer, less melatonin production.
Really?
So who knew that if you're not
you can buy melatonin, can't you?
You can. But, you know, something as simple as cherries, more cherries helps the body's melatonin production. So God had this amazing plan. You know, the fresh fruits and vegetables help our body to make all these wonderful chemicals that help us to live long and live well.
What about the fact that, you know, fruit and everything is so seasonal?
Right. There's a reason.
Don't
for
you need
that.
cherries all year long?
See, we think that we should go into the grocery store and have tomatoes and,
Yeah.
and cherries and everything year long. That's not the way that God intended it. That if we eat seasonally, what's in season has the most concentration of nutrients. So whether it's the berries in the summertime or in the winter, of course, here in Florida, citrus. If we eat more seasonally, if we eat more farm to table, we're getting what God intended in terms of what is becoming ripe has the most nutrients at that time.
For that time of year.
For that time of year.
I remember a missionary once saying, and boy, it made a lot of sense to me. I'd never thought of it, but in the part of the world you're living in, you need to eat what's there.
Exactly.
Because your system needs it in that total circumstance.
Right.
Boy, God He's in the details. I've said this before on this show, but I think people need to hear it. We say the devil's in the details. Oh, no.
Right.
God is in the
Plan.
tiniest detail. And even of your life.
I mean, you talked about stem cell. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing now that we know that we can rewire our brains, that diseases that we used to think, things like, Alzheimer's, neurodegenerative diseases, there's nothing we can do. Stroke patients, we can rewire those brains because of lifestyle choices. That is nothing short of just miraculous.
And it's really exciting what's happening.
It is. It is.
I think stem cells are the wave of the future, really.
Right.
Okay, here's another one. Well, we talked about the sleep, but also would a probiotic help?
Good bacteria.
Because it's the gut or something that, and I don't like that word. So what is really the gut?
Well, it's from the mouth all the way through
this whole,
the rectum in terms of, that's our digestive system.
And so that needs certain
good bacteria, a balance of good to bad bacteria. You can't wipe out all the bad, and of course that's what antibiotics do, and sometimes that's necessary because those bad bacteria, if they proliferate, if they're more than the good bacteria, can cause infections, any number of imbalances in the body. So we have to keep a balance, but we've gotten away from the fermented food. We've gotten away from eating things like starches and starchy vegetables that are the fodder, that these good bacteria live on. And then there's water supply system. You turn on the faucet and you're getting a dose of antibiotics, whether you believe it, whether you know it or not. Farm animals, we've seen more and more companies respond to consumers' concern about feeding these animals antibiotics because it fattens them before they're come to market, but it destroys the balance of good to bad bacteria that can affect our sleep. It can affect so many aspects. Even the fact that we have 1 in 6 children now either behavior or learning disabled. Autism, all of these.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know why that occurs, but we know that 90% of children, by the time they reach the age of 3 in the United States of America, will have had an ear infection treated by an antibiotic. You can't overlook that that's not what God intended.
Yeah, that whole field is just downright scary, the percentage of children nowadays, with autism. Would it be safe to say that most people need a probiotic?
These days,
because of our,
yes.
Dr. Young has one, it's called Probimune.
Right, and certainly probably quarterly, the average healthy person should, take a dosage, finish a bottle of probiotics. Some people who have digestive disorders or autoimmune conditions will probably take them, more often than not. But people who don't know that tap water can have chemotherapy agents or antibiotics in them.
Oh my goodness!
All of those
That's
create
poison.
that imbalance. Absolutely, when we're getting a water supply system.
Our water tastes so bad that I don't drink any of it. And I'll tell you one that really tastes bad is the one that comes out of the refrigerator, that little...
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we got too much to talk about. We're going to run out of time. Artificial sweeteners relate to weight gain.
Yes. Yes, people think
it's supposed to do the opposite, isn't it?
Yes, I'm sugar-free, and we now know that these are foreign chemicals to the body, and they have effects. They have effects that can be far-reaching in our health, whether it's our thyroid health, whether it's the balance they affect the balance of good to bad bacteria in our gut, and we find that people who consume more of the artificial sweeteners are actually way more because they're affecting that balance of good to bad bacteria in the gut. That's amazing to think that people who, for example, are obese have different bacteria than a person who's slim, just because of the bacterial balance in their body.
Yeah, and the information you sent is linked to obesity and diseases.
Right.
So the question is, you better be better off put a little sugar in your tea than one of those things.
Exactly, exactly. If you take a look at the
Yeah, that's
last
what I
5
do, yeah.
decades in this country, we'd be better to go back to the butter and the sugar, the not processed sugar in moderation, as opposed to all these chemicals that leave us fatter than any other
Like
nation
that
on the
wonderful
planet.
Disney song, I think it's a Disney song, it's a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Mary Poppins was right.
Yeah, before we run out of time though, I'm hearing so much about turmeric.
Yes.
And we've only got 2 minutes.
Right.
Tell us what it is.
It is the active ingredient in curry. And curry is a natural anti-inflammatory, and we know that nations who even get 1 meal of curry a month have a lot less Alzheimer's because it modulates inflammation. Curry is the only known substance on the planet, even pharmaceutical, that will reduce the effects of having too much radiation. CT scans, all of these medical procedures have radiation. They change the DNA in our cells, and turmeric is a great way. Just add some curry on a regular basis, whether you're cooking or out and eating.
So you just put a little in your...
You can take it in capsule form
Now
and eat it. It's good.
The people of India use a lot of curry.
They don't have the Alzheimer's. They don't have the inflammatory diseases like arthritis that we do in this country. They don't have the cancer that we do in this country because it modulates inflammation.
So you can add just a little bit of it to about anything?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, I'm going to get some.
Yeah,
for
add
sure.
to that rice on those Asian meatballs.
Okay, now some of the information said to put a little bit of black pepper with it. What's that for?
Right, black pepper, bioperine, B-I-O-P-E-R-I-N-E, makes the active ingredient curry more bioavailable. So it's that mixture of spices. There's no one right way. You've got to use that mixture of spices, just like nature does.
So you just, a little turmeric, a little black pepper, throw it in your food, and it's good for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, we're out of time, but you really do owe us a couple. You were gone all summer. So it's wonderful to have you back.
Thank you.
And I know how much the viewers appreciate you, and you really do give it to us so that we can understand it, and that's great. So I'll try to get her back before the whole month's up. You just be sure and join us next time, remembering there's no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you should miss a Homekeepers program, you can catch up by going to www.ctnonline.com. Click on CTN Programs and then on Homekeepers.